Good morning and welcome back to the Old 37 Homestead channel. Thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate it. I'm doing a next installment of the Florida plant profile. This will be number 5. So far we've covered cassava, true yams, Seminole pumpkins, and cranberry hibiscus. And today I'm going to show a rather common plant that you know people all over the I assume all over the country enjoy, and but it's something that is really easy to grow here. It grows without much effort, and it is um, it's cheap to buy the seeds, I guess, to plant. And yeah, it's also something that you can use to as a cover crop, and it helps fix the soil. So we're talking about black-eyed peas. And black-eyed peas are in the cowpea family. There are more than one variety of cowpea, and black-eyed peas is one of them. So you can see here I have a whole bunch of these planted all over my garden because, you know, like I've talked about in previous videos, I'm trying to fix the soil out here. I'm trying to plant and focus on plants that are going to grow and, one, help the soil, two, that don't require very, very fertile, you know, perfect soil. And right now, since we've been getting up to, you know, 95, I wanted to plant something that's going to, you know, have no problem and go through the summer through the heat and the humidity. And black-eyed peas is a perfect, black-eyed peas are a perfect plant for that. They like the heat. It doesn't bother them. And you can see there's some already growing. So that's what the flower looks like. A little white flower. There right here is a baby pea just starting to form. Then they get bigger and bigger, and they don't really get much bigger than this here. And you can pick them at this point and shell them. You can pick them when they're very, very small and eat them. Maybe a little smaller than this. You can eat them like a green bean, or you can let them dry and store them as a dried bean like you would when you find them in the grocery store. And all of these black-eyed peas, like there's a whole bunch right there. There's tall ones right down there. I have them kind of, there's some right there, there's some right there. I just, wherever there were holes in the garden, I just threw some black-eyed peas down. There's some right there in front of that cassava plant. And there's some right there. And then there's some on the other side of that cassava plant. But I literally went to the grocery store, bought a pack of dried black-eyed peas, and just came out here and threw a whole bunch down. And I did thin some of them out, but I didn't thin too much because I didn't want it to be a row of like single plants. I wanted it to be a big cluster of plants like this. And so thin them out a little bit, you know, look at when the sprouts are coming up, look at the ones that look the weakest, thin those out, and then the ones that are growing strong, let them go. And you can leave them like this. You know, you don't have to put a trellis or stakes or anything like that for them to grow. They will vine, as you can see right here. This one is starting to crawl up my mulberry tree here, which that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. So, but yeah, they will grow. There's another one right here. You see it wrapping around and going up. So, and this is an example of them vining out. So if you give it something to crawl up, it will, but they'll also, and you might get a few, you know, peas if you do it that way. But since I'm doing it not necessarily to get a whole bunch of peas, but to fix my soil, I don't give it anything to crawl up. So you can do it without something for it to climb, or you can give it something to climb. And yeah, They fix nitrogen in the soil because they're in the legume family. So anytime you have black-eyed peas, and every time you pick the pods off, it's going to drop nitrogen into the soil. There's a scientific process to that I'm not 100% sure how to explain. So that's all I'm going to say. But but yeah, they're a really good cover crop. You can come out and literally just blanket a whole area with black-eyed peas and then let them come up. And what I found with is I don't even really have to plant them just so all this other thing, a 1/4 inch in the ground and cover lightly with soil and don't pack it down and all this other stuff. I have thrown black-eyed peas down, and some of them didn't even get really buried that far into the soil, and they still grew. So they're just very, very hardy. They're very prolific. They grow very easily, and they don't require that much attention. So you can see there's a better look at the flowers. That little green one right there, that's a flower bud. You can see right there too, that's going to flower. But that's the flower there, and then there's the start of a pea. And they're ones too that you can store. If you keep the dried peas, if you let them dry, then you can store them and plant them again, and they will come up time and time again. One thing to keep in mind, especially in Florida in the summer, it's our rainy season, and the humidity is a lot higher, so there's just more moisture in the air in general. I have noticed that if you let them 100% completely dry on the plant, that they will tend to get moldy because there's so much moisture in the air that the pod stays moist, and so it starts to get mold, like the black mold, instead of fully drying. So what you can do is, when you start to see it get that little bit dry brown and it's not moldy or anything yet, even if it's a little bit wet, you can harvest it, put it inside, let it sit and completely finish drying out the rest of the way, then shell it and store them in a tight, like I have mine in a mason jar, and I save those little if you have medicine bottles or vitamin bottles or electronics or something like that, and those little packs of the silica gel, I keep I have a bag full of those, and I put some of those in there to make sure it's absorbing all the moisture, because if you put them in somewhere where there's moisture, they will also start to mold, or they'll start to sprout. So but that's how I store mine. A little bit of a word of caution: when you start to see them dry out, they may not completely dry out here because of the humidity and the rain. So you can pick them a tad before they completely dry out, and then put them away and store them, and then you can either cook them and eat them, or you can save them to plant out. If you want a bunch of them, you're going to need to plant a bunch of them. So like I have it all over the garden. But like I said, they're one of these plants that you can literally just come out and blanket you could come out here and just put black-eyed peas all down, and they would grow. You'd have a whole section, a whole garden full of black-eyed peas, because they're that prolific. So is the profile for today. Tune in next week, and I will be talking about another plant in the legume family that grows very well here. And again, I appreciate everybody watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and to like and drop a comment. If anybody has questions about anything, let me know. And I will be back next week, and I hope everybody has a great week.